go ahead and call this meeting to order. Okay, do we have any audience comments?
Nothing in the chat.
Okay. And then moving on to consent agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, Heather, if you'll call for the vote.
Just a second.
No problem.
Baker.
Aye.
Dunbar.
Aye.
Gerton.
Aye.
Bowden.
Aye.
Sosby. Aye. Stover. Did
Aye.
I call everyone? Okay, sorry. There's my list.
Great. Okay, and then moving on to new business, the library code of conduct.
All right. You saw this recently. It starts on page 30 and following. And we tried a little experiment about letting people have food wherever they wanted. It didn't go very well. So this is like undoing that.
And then
So-
also added the lost and found.
Oh, yes. Sorry about that. We had not had anything about lost and found. And some other library asked about it and was like, well, what if, I mean, it would be good to actually tell people what happens if they leave their stuff here.
Okay.
That we actually have it in policy that we can, do
Okay.
something about that if it, they don't come back. Thank you, Doug. I'm sorry I missed that. So those are the changes on there.
Great.
Do we have a lot of that?
A lot of lost and found.
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, some of it is not, a lot of it isn't valuable.
And do they come back to get it most of the time?
I would say not that
We have
often.
unclaimed canes. I don't know how they left, not knowing they left their canes.
Do we need a motion? Motion to approve?
Second.
All right, Heather, if you'll call for the vote.
Baker.
Aye.
Dunbar.
Aye.
Gerton.
Aye.
Sosby. Aye. Stover.
Aye.
Oh, aye.
And I forgot to say any discussion, so
yeah.
we'll make sure. Any more discussion? Okay, all right. And then video excerpt advocate or activist.
Since we didn't have much business, I thought this would be a great chance to do some trustee education. And well, first of all, we talked about at the work session about, building some library advocates, creating some more relationships with people to try to get them to understand what we do, what we offer, and that, we have some shared value there. And so I had heard at ILF, I heard this guy in this video do a presentation. He's with a group called Every Library. And every library has a couple of arms, but anyway, this is a video that is about the same topic I heard about, which I think is helpful. It's about the difference between advocacy and activism. And so what we really want to do is to build advocates. We want to make relationships and identify advocates. And then if we need a little activism, we will have those established relationships. So I picked a clip. You'll be able to tell it's just a clip. It's not perfect, but we did it as best we could. And it's about 14, 15 minutes of just him explaining what advocacy is, what activism is, how they're alike and different. So it's just a little educational excerpt.
Some concepts here for a little while around theory of advocacy and theory of activism, because what we're trying to accomplish with the work that we're doing on both the C4 side and the C3 side, the Every Library Code Collection Committee and our institute, in partnership with state library organizations like NLA and local libraries when they're on the ballots, or school library communities when there's a crisis or a challenge or an opportunity. I want to go through the differences here, because if we are going to work together in some substantial ways, it's important to understand the frameworks. Our theory of advocacy and our theory of activism starts with the idea, first off, that they are distinctly different from each other, that advocacy and activism are separate. They're co-equal, they're in sometimes parallel processes, sometimes they're in sequence, sometimes it's just one but not the other. But the techniques of well, too often, library organizations, library associations conflate these principles, push them all together. It diffuses the focus, it minimizes the potential impacts. Understanding the differences is what I want to spend a little bit of time with you on today. And one of the big things is how to help support your legislative, your regulatory, your funding agenda, using the right kind of tools, the right kind of techniques, the right kind of, well, long game, short game. Advocacy. Our theory of advocacy really starts with the concept that advocacy is a process-oriented and relationship-focused approach to understanding through an exploration together between your organization and another organization, your organization and an allied group, a group of stakeholders, an elected official, if we like them, a politician if we don't, a funder, a grant maker. So a relationship building opportunity that might be unilateral or multilateral, perhaps in a coalition. This exploration of our shared values framework, exploration of a shared values framework that purposefully aligns through this exploration, through this understanding of why are we both focused on a particular population? Why are we both focused on a particular place that we call home? The purposeful alignment around mission, ways to realize a common vision, again, about people or about place. A lot of the time, advocacy in libraries is like we have to tell a story. We have to tell a story and then we have to get active. And we have to tell a story and get active and maybe wear some t-shirts or have a petition or do something that's going to really get in front of a policymaker and demand change. Our feelings here at every library and our lived experience of we're doing hundreds of library ballot measures and supports for legitimate stakeholders, whether it's a state library organization or state library, school library community, is that if the advocacy framework that you start with assumes an adversarial situation, it's not an advocacy situation. It's in fact, it's a real problem. Because again, if advocacy is focused on building partnerships, creating relationships, it might be unilateral or multilateral with a bunch of different organizations that are aligning values, that are understanding each other's mission, that are coming together for a reason that is a shared vision. It doesn't start with storming barricades or putting on t-shirts or floating position papers. It's education first and foremost. Right now, there are a lot of organizations that care about the same people libraries serve, care about the same students, care about the same communities, care about the same place, but they have no idea what you're doing. No offense, they have no idea what you're doing. The education about what our library is capable of today, it's been cocktail party problem for any library worker or librarian. Oh, you work at the library? I thought everything was on the internet. No, it's not all on the internet. Let me take a deep breath. It's not all on the internet. Let me tell you all about it. Oh, do people still read books? I thought all the e-books took over. What do you do all day? You read? There's a lot of, the last frame of reference for many people who are not users of the library was their high school experience or their grade school experience, and they drive by these parking lots full and they think everything's awesome. The first component of advocacy, if we understand that it's about a potentially shared value system, a potential common mission, a potential vision for our community or for the future of a group of people we care about, starts with education. To them about what we're capable of. They haven't been paying attention. And yet they are values aligned, perhaps. They're on a common cause with us. They have a common concern. So then after we educate, how do we have to then orient them, not just to the institution, but to who we are as librarians and library workers. And when I say we here, forgive me, I'm not a librarian myself, but the all y'all on the call here. who are librarians and library workers today? That orientation and that education establishes, well, two things. One is it teaches people who are themselves engaged. Information that says, maybe we can do something together, and it establishes your bona fides as the experts in librarianship and library work, while they themselves are experts in their particular domains as well. Moving from education and orientation, though, is a very necessary next step in advocacy, which is a moment of ideation. We tend in library advocacy trainings from other organizations, not every library, to say that what you have to do is tell a story, and then somebody will fix your problems for you. If we can go and tell a good story to an elected official, somebody in the legislature, then they'll fix our problem for us. But it actually has to be around co-creation of the solutions. That educating them about how we are on a common mission. We have a common set of values, orienting them to your capabilities and your interests and your integrity as librarians and library workers, and then saying, okay, what could a shared solution to those problems look like? Is it a policy solution? Is it legislative? Is it regulatory? Is it funding? Is it a bit of PR? Is it alignment around marketing and outreach? Is it co-locating services? What's the ideation? There's a lot of places to explore right now. But advocacy assumes there's an opportunity to collaborate and not an adversarial environment. By ideating together, we decide together with our partner or coalition partners, unilaterally, what's the word I'm looking for? Multilateral is many, unilateral is singular, that's what's the key. We come together and say, what could it look like? And then part of the advocacy conversation is what resources do we need in place in order to collaborate with each other? What resources do we need to do this work? Is it policy? Is it budgetary? Is it staffing? Is it facilities? What do we need then becomes a shared solution. And this is where it moves from a situation where we're simply telling a story to somebody saying, we do great work at the library. Look, we help somebody learn how to read. Don't you believe that we should exist? To a situation where we are on a shared path together to help those kids, those seniors, people looking for work, this community we both call home. But then what changes it from simply having a chat with somebody who runs another organization in town or staffs an agency or is a stakeholder in a big group, is the activation step. It is not a sales cycle to take people through education, orientation, ideation, and unification into activation. It is a moment of consent. It is a moment of co-creation. It is a moment where the permission to do this says we're both committed to the collaboration. And I'm not talking about programmatic partnerships here, folks. I'm talking about something that's committed to the collaboration of, yes, we would like to advance some legislation that sets up a regulatory environment. Yes, we would like to change the budget in a positive way to make sure that the librarians in schools and public libraries and academic libraries have the funding they need to succeed. It is activation of a set of values that would otherwise be offended by the shortfalls that you've identified. This is not throwing barricades. This is not wearing t-shirts. This is not storytelling with a hope. It is a plan to talk with folks who run the rest of society and go in common cause with them in order to fix the solutions, or sorry, to provide solutions and fix problems. All right. This is our approach at the library. On advocacy, that's one thing. On activism, it's another. Let me share with you about this for a moment. We look at activism in a very different lens than advocacy. Activism is a short moment in time. It might happen frequently, it might happen infrequently, but it is strident action as opposed to the long game of relationship building. It's strident action that expects a change because it's asking for a change. It's short. It is focused on values system the same way that advocacy is. It is focused on identity as well, about like who are we together, we're stronger, a small group of people can change the world. Those messages are intended to move people who are otherwise unaware of the situation, or they're inactive perhaps about an issue. A lot of advocacy and training conflates relationship building and partnerships and coalitions with the idea that somebody's gonna speak on your behalf, but we have to get the parents involved, we have to get the stakeholders involved, we have to have an action happen. We have to be pulled apart. Activism moves people who would, after something is over, say to you, if I had only known, I would have helped. If I'd only known I would have helped is the death knell for a lot of library campaigns, because, well, otherwise unaware people, otherwise inactive people, about the issues or ideas, moving them from saying that, well, we have a crisis in our community, or we have an opportunity in our community, into close alignment and identification. That's the principles of activism. That's actually where you have the t-shirts, you storm the barricades, you hug the library, you have the placards, you do the petition. And I'm going to describe a little bit of the differences here. Activism is itself, well, first off, activism has to be focused on your own enlightened self-interests. We have a problem in library land sometimes, or in the library world sometimes, where we say we want somebody else to advocate on our behalf, or we don't want to be seen asking for what we need because then we look greedy, or we don't want to be seen even doing the work that we're doing because that's not our disposition as people who work in libraries or support libraries. And yet activism requires your own enlightened self-interest to be there legitimately, and an active voice to be employed, is without that, it's basically an environment where all you have is some kind of hope. Activism is based in a shared values framework. Because it's a short activity, it's a quick activity, it's an urgent activity, the shared values in a crisis are offended. The shared values between you, the library stakeholders, and other people in the community who should also care. If your shared value system is offended by this crisis, they're going to cut the library's budget. How dare they? Or it is affirmed. Oh, there's an opportunity right now for us to pass legislation. We need you to act now and contact Senator so-and-so and Representative so-and-so, because our value system about how we should behave as a community is about to be supported. And we don't want to lose that out.
All right, thank you for watching that. Any questions or comments that we should consider? I did clip it because this part went on and on and on, and I thought you just didn't need to watch all of that. But if anybody wants the whole, would like to see the whole video, I'd be glad to share the link with you. So.
Did you have something?
What I got from it is activism is mobilization and advocacy is lobbying.
Advocacy is long-term relationship building, which I don't know how lobbying fits in there. That's an interesting.
Well, lobbying is long-term relationship building.
It is, but it's also, I think some of it is also activism based on the lobbyists that I hear from the library, Indiana Library Federation, but certainly lobbyists would tell you to build long-term relationships. Don't wait until there's a crisis. That's definitely true.
As an English teacher, I see advocacy as the noun and activism as the verb. Simplify it.
Well, I hope you picked up something or at least found it to be relevant to what we had just talked about. So anyway, yeah.
I guess one question I have, when like thinking about if we think of people that we could build relationships with to better inform them that, that budget could be, there could be some, things coming up in legislation. Yeah, would it be helpful for us to connect those people to you or to just build a relationship on our own as a board member?
Well, that's a good question, because I think as a library, we really do, like, some of what I've been doing in going around having appointments with other, organizational leaders. I'm looking at just like, what are you doing? What do you hope for? And then I'm listening to that and then offering things, you know what, we do this, and we might be able to support you with that. Or, in one case, I went in where somebody already had a list of, these are things that we think you could do that would be great because these are the bigger issues that we're dealing with. And so that, right now, mostly we're doing that. Now, in terms of just informing people, like if you feel like people are already see the library's value and they're individuals and there's not something particular that you want us to be working with them on, like, like your family and friends or something like that, then I think it would probably be better if you made sure if you had information you needed, like, if you wanted us to prepare something for you, make sure were well informed, but that you informally talk to them, because you have, how people like on Facebook, if you're on Facebook, they ask questions like, hey, what roofer do you recommend? And how recently did you use them? Or whatever they ask. Sometimes they ask things that I don't understand why they're not talking to a doctor, but people ask things and then other people, their trusted friends are giving them advice. So if you're a trusted voice to someone, then I think you would have a conversation with that person, not kick it over to me because I work here. Of course, I'm going to say whatever.
Okay.
So I think that if you have a chance to just make sure people know, hey, was some legislation this last year, it didn't pass, but this is in the works. And the people I've mentioned it to have been horrified at the idea that library funding could be at risk. So I do think that if you have a chance with people who trust you, to just make sure they're a little more informed. And then the next step would be, hey, if you want to make sure you know about this kind of thing, if you would make sure they know about that in Freedom, or connect them with me, like, would you like to know more about how you can stay informed? Then it will be fine to give them my email address or take their email address and give it to me so I could get in touch with them if you had their permission.
Okay.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Okay. And then anything else? Next, we have the thumbnail sketch community partnerships, the National Library Week Roosevelt events with Lori Suman.
Hello, how is everyone?
Hello.
Is this good?
Normally up at the front is where you would go.
My first time being in front of you all, so thanks for giving me a moment. Just a quick thumbnail history. Most of you probably know Frank Faulkner. I'm totally crediting him with the idea of Dance Across Roosevelt. I'm a hard no kind of girl with him a lot of times because he has these amazing, huge ideas. The original idea was to dance between the branches. That's a hard no. I can't dance between Roosevelt and the South Branch. But when he recognized that our Roosevelt Gene Parks run and all the events we had last Saturday were backed up to the National Library Week, and he recognized that. He sent Lori Hugley and I an email and said, hey, what do you think about dancing across Roosevelt? And he had, video clips and all of that cool stuff. And Lori emailed me and said, what do you think? And I said, I'm mulling it over. And she said, if you do it, I'm there. And so we've now done it. We had about 82 people who danced across Roosevelt. Doug was there, Maddie from CMD. We had truly, it was a community, a county event. We had folks from the Kokomo Senior Center line dance class. And in fact, I received a picture today. They all wore their socks, and these were our library giveaway. And I brought pairs. If anyone wants them, I'll give them to you after the meeting. In fact, the Lions Club, we started on the Lions Club, at the Lions Club and the library, which is about a mile apart. And the Lions Club group kind of blew past when we met in the middle, and I figured out later they were going for the socks. So Lori Hugley's like, what? They're going. But so anyhow, it was a huge success. We had folks dancing. They walked and ran in the Gene Parks Run, which supported Ainsley's Angels and the Carl Kuntz Scholarship. And then we also had Troop 619, which is a local Rocheville Scout troop that did a pancake breakfast, and they raised $1,500 toward their Iceland trip for their adventure camp this summer. So all I can say is it was an amazing community event. I kind of went back and looked at our mission and vision statement. And I don't know about you, Doug, you were doing it, but I felt like we really created opportunities for our community to become our best. And it wasn't just a Rocheville event, it was a county event. And the highlight for me was a couple who lives across from the branch who truly have had some health issues in the last couple of years. And I think they were joyfully dancing. And so they were bringing up the rear, just dancing away and having a great time. And so that was the highlight for the day for me. So thank you for your time.
Good.
It was the last day of National Library Week, so it just wrapped up National Library Week. And Frank Faulkner has already sent us additional ideas about National Library Week, including a video that was done by the Tacoma? Maybe not. Anyway, some library somewhere else that did a big video for National Library Week that they did a parody of a Taylor Swift song. I'm hoping that he forgets about it by next year. But anyway, so I appreciate Lori and Lori taking leadership and making that happen. And, getting socks for dancing was a pretty cool idea. So, and Kaylee assisted with that as well.
Kaylee and Shakti did the socks. And really the South Branch and the Rocheville branch worked together. We were a great team, branch team to make it happen, so.
Was they going for a Guinness Book World Record or something?
No, just a fun.
I just wondered, somebody had said that and I thought, wow, that would have to be a lot of.
Not that I'm aware of. Nobody told me if they were.
That commented on the Guinness Book Record, that was never our plan.
Okay.
All right, and then finding your native roots, Bill Porter. I am not sure.
Thank you. This Saturday at Indiana University, Kokomo will be the third spring installment of the Kokomo Native Initiative cultural and educational programs and events that we've been holding in Kokomo and Howard County. In 2022, we explored general history and culture. In 2023, learning about applicable laws and legislation. This year is hands-on, literally. Finding Your Native Roots is a full-day lecture and lab event with resources and expertise to help members of the community explore new methods in genealogy and family history research with a focus on Indian ancestry and heritage. Many families today in our community suffer gaps and critical omissions in their family histories due to the diaspora as a result of governmental removal policies dating back to the 1830s. Or they don't know where to find information about tribal enrollment, if that had been fragmented along the way. The prosperity of our nation came at the expense of people today who may not know what happened to their great-grandparents. Finding Your Native Roots will be a chance to help heal wounds and perhaps provide a path for potential tribal enrollment. The library will be well represented publicly with pride and precision. As a partner, I guess as an advocate, as part of this activity, we'll be having bags with various pencils and other swag, various genealogy charts and documents that will be able to be used as handouts. We're going to have these ready for all the guests that attend at the University Library on Saturday.
And then we have staff there as well, right?
We'll have staff, we'll have material and resources and people from the library to help us on Saturday.
Any questions for Gil?
Do you have any idea of the number of participants you're expecting?
We're expecting about probably 25 or 30. Yeah, 50 is our sort of our target number. So anything less than that, if we get an overflow, that'd be great. We'll deal with it at the time. But in 2022, for the lectures we had, then there were 2 sessions. About 150 people attended those 2 sessions. Last year was about 50 for an informational session. And this year, again, is we're utilizing, there'll be a lecture time in the morning, and then we're using the university computer labs in the afternoon. So, you know, this is intended to be a little more hands-on. It's a one-day event, but the takeaway for everybody is right across the hall.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Other new business? Anything?
I see flips.
We had great fun at South, and we had an astonishing number of requests for Eclipse glasses. But we also had they just did all kinds of fun things. We were included in a Kokomo Tribune article about things that happened around the community. We were at the beginning of the article, and then there was a section on the library, and lots of nice comments and thanks from people who came. So it went over well, and the staff really just did an amazing job of how many activities they had available and all of that. So it was quite successful, would be my report.
Excellent.
Great. And then director's comments?
All right. As the liaison to the Friends of the Library, I want to remind you, the book sale is this Friday afternoon if you're a member, Saturday if you're not. A membership is $5 a year, so not too much of a stretch if you wanted to become a member. And then I wanted to remind you about the email sent. I am asking you today, before you leave, to let Heather know whether or not you would like to be part of our group at the Distinguished Citizen Dinner, where to be honored. And so it's on May 23rd at 6 p.m. at Elite, but I want to make sure we get our seats. Elite is not that big, and this event sometimes has quite a few people at it. And I would like to make sure that we get our table or get our, appropriate number of tickets. So even if your answer is no, you are not available, I'm asking you to please make sure Heather knows that. So far, Karen has RSVP'd, yes, she gets a gold star. And everyone else, you get your gold star before you leave.
I did.
Okay. Perfect. That didn't come to me, so I didn't know. I apologize. Gold star all around.
Does
So-
Joe have to RSVP?
Yeah.
Joe, I
Yeah.
think is probably sitting with the distinguished guests, not at our table, would be my guess.
Distinguished.
Just don't bring picket signs.
Oh, I'm ready to RSVP now.
I guess we can't bring like a crown for him to wear or anything like that.
King Joe.
Yeah, nothing that's like paste, fake jewels.
Oh, we
Anyway,
could do the Joe fade, the Joe.
Oh,
head.
yeah, the Bobby. Oh,
That would be good.
yes, I'm sure we could arrange that.
I can't
Yeah.
go, so you might be okay.
But I can. I did like the Joe faces on a stick though. That's cute.
Make it work out.
I have a crown from my mom's beauty pageant. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Joe's probably gonna go for that, but it's a fun idea. All right, and I wanted also to make sure that you are aware that Heather is retiring after almost 40 years. So, she will. Her last day at the library will be July 5th. And, but we have planned, she's going to come back for her farewell party. And so we have arranged it to be in this room immediately prior to the July board meeting. So it starts at 3 p.m., but it will wrap up at like 4:25. And so this part will be set up, except we are not gonna have the pretty tablecloths because we don't want like, cake smeared on them. But we will be set up like this. People will be sitting here, enjoying things, and we'll have food up at that end and et cetera. So Heather's promised she'll be here, and I want to make sure that you're invited in case you would like to stop by and, wish her well on her next adventure.
Yeah,
So big news from us.
yeah, big news.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's all I have, unless there's something else that you want to prompt me about.
I think so. All right,
No.
the meeting is adjourned.